Welcome to the Pendulum Podcast, where perspectives swing. Yep. Anyway.
That's all, folks.
Welcome to the Pendulum Podcast, where perspectives swing, but the shit stays on the ground. The conversation. Oh, that's what it is, conversation. Why do I forget that? Okay. Welcome to the Pendulum Podcast, where the stuff... Wow, why is this so difficult? I have more respect for people that do...
Now you are overthinking it.
No, I'm not. I keep forgetting the words. Perspective swing, but the conversation stays grounded.
Don't think about how you want to say it. Think about what you want to say.
You think about what you want to say.
Let me do it.
Welcome to the Pendulum Podcast, where perspectives swing, but the conversation stays grounded.
I'm Jackson, 25 years old.
And I'm TJ, I'm 41.
It's my line, isn't it?
Okay, what do you want to start with? Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing it?
Well, we're doing this for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is you and I used to spend a lot of time on the phone together. 8 hours a day. You were a truck driver. I still kind of am. And we would just find ourselves getting into deep conversations talking about whether it was whatever was happening in the world or whatever was happening in our lives at the time. I've been through breakups. You've been through, life. And so from my younger perspective, looking to the older generation, if you will.
The elder?
Yeah. Just looking for help, advice, whatever, to anyone who would listen. I just remember being in that time where you would try to bring up a conversation with somebody and they just didn't have the mental capacity or the knowledge to really give you the advice or listen to you. And that's where you came in. So we just started talking about stuff, and eventually we were like, wow, we are really getting into this. Maybe we should start recording some of this kind of stuff. And we've been talking about it for years. And I think the original idea actually was with you and whoever. But
yeah, another truck driver and I actually talked about... because you get, when you're a truck driver, you get into everything, man. Like what's going on at home and like your relationship with your folks and like, past, I hate the word trauma. I'm going to say that right now. But past traumas and like, stuff. And so you just talk about everything because you're just driving for, sometimes we were driving for 14 hours a day. And so,
oh yeah, all you do is just sit there and go over everything else going on in your life because you can't do anything about it from behind the wheel. And so for me personally, I think out loud. So being on the phone really helps. So the goal of this is to create some sort of space or platform that's going to show two different perspectives, older, younger, somebody who's still building my life, someone who's sort of, if you will, built your life, the advice that you've given me, my perspective, my questions, back and forth. So that's what we're going to do.
One of the other things for me, so my perspective is different because one of the things that I like to do is I like to talk ideology. I like to talk philosophy. I like to talk about deep stuff. I like to get into stuff, like I'm not a person that just has conversations about nothing. And so when we were doing our phone calls and stuff, I found those way more engaging than talking about, who was racing where next weekend or, like a lot of stuff I just didn't care about, like, oh, we're going to go ride dirt bikes or me and the girlfriend are going to Leavenworth. I just didn't care about that stuff. I wanted to talk about like who hurt you, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. And so you end up, and then the other part of this too, not to like jump around a bunch is you create a massive amount of trust in a very short period of time when you start talking to people about stuff that they don't want to talk about or that they're not comfortable with talking about. And usually that is able to happen by you opening yourself up and saying, hey man, this is kind of what I think about all this stuff and being open and honest with people. And then you're able to create like long lasting relationships based on trust because people trust you faster.
I'll back you up on the engaging part because right along with my perspective, I remember you and I talking specifically. It'd be in a group call with 5 or 6 people, and everyone would be talking about like who they're road raging with or whatever, what's on Instagram, whatever. And
or what Chrome stacks look the best on
oh
what
yeah,
truck or all
whatever.
that dumb stuff, and just what a waste of time.
And so you and I started talking about engaging stuff, and I found myself way more attentive and way more interested in talking about that kind of stuff because not a lot of people wanted to. And I had real questions. I had real stuff going on in my life at the time. Of course, I still do. So, yeah, engaging.
We also created kind of a movement too, because I used to do it with 2 other drivers and you, and we would talk on the phone for, I think our record was like 18 hours, like consistent phone call. And we kind of got this little group going on where we got close to people that we weren't really close with before because we would just talk about stuff. And it was all kind of happenstance. So, and I do have to also preface too for the audience that we're car guys. Like you can see the truck over here. This is, a 1950 Dodge Pilot House on airbags. So it's like we build stuff here in the shop. But I find certain stuff engaging as far as conversation. And then when it comes to shop stuff, obviously I could talk about cars forever. But, the idea is you can sit and have a conversation with somebody and further your relationship and maybe further their life based on your experience or help them through their stuff. And I don't think that happens enough. And we did kind of touch on that we were going to do stuff about men's mental health and dive into that stuff. And I think that's one thing that men don't do is, you got buddies that'll like have your back if, you need to go and like take care of some stuff. Or if somebody was to, heaven forbid, hurt your family or something, like you have strong men that are willing to do things, but you don't have a lot of people that you can sit down and have a conversation about feelings with, because there's a lot of still in my generation and in yours, there's still a lot of people that were not taught that they're allowed to converse about that. Or even if somebody says, hey, it's okay, you can have a conversation about that, they still don't feel comfortable doing it because of who you would have that conversation with, right? You have to have somebody that is open and willing. Mm-hmm. And I want to touch on one more thing. This comes from a guy, like, I have literally never hugged my own father. Never once. That's just not how our relationship is. And he's only told me that he loves me within the last 5 or 6 years of my life, and I'm 41 years old. So
and it's only been like twice, maybe 3 times, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's only been a couple of times. And so the point is that like there's a massive amount of value for me to be able to talk about this stuff when I come from that type of background, right? When we are having these conversations, I see the value because I didn't get that part of it. And I develop my skills based on my relationships with my own friends. I tell you guys all the time that I love you, and like, not like, oh, I love you, man, like when we get off the phone, but like in conversation, I'll bring it up because I never had that from somebody that, from my dad, but like somebody that I looked up to or friends or whatever. So I try to create that culture as much as I can.
I will say that you remind me of something when you say, I tell you that I love you, and it's not like on the phone or whatever. When you have said, hey, man, I love you, it's usually because you're checking me. You're like, I love you. What are you doing? Yeah. Like, you're doing, X, Y, Z. Like, hey, man, I love you. I'm looking out for you,
Yeah.
And people from my generation, your generation, there's a gap somewhere because people my age don't do that. People your age don't do that. As men, we're taught your feelings don't matter. Get up, shut up, go provide for your family. The rest doesn't matter, And that makes it hard for a guy to provide for his family and provide for his family. There's 2 different things that I'm talking about. There's resources, but there's also being a father. And of course, I don't have kids. I'm not a father. I've got a dad though, and looking back and reflecting, and looking at your relationship with your dad, there's, you know, so we're going to try and break that cycle.
Yeah.
Because that's all you and I talk about, especially when we're really talking about stuff. We talk about
really
what's going on, my head, your head.
Yeah.
X,
Well,
Y,
and
Z.
it's cool because you can kind of bounce ideas off of another person, and like, you know, people. I shouldn't say people. Like, there's a lot of people that have told me in my life, like, you should be steadfast in your beliefs and stand your ground and be what you're going to be, basically. Well, that's all well and good, but it's nice to have a sounding board. It's nice to, you know, like have somebody that is willing to check you and say, "Hey, man, like
Ooh.
your perspective where we're sitting
Mm-hmm.
maybe isn't your actions are not correct for the situation, and I see it a different way, right?" So, I think that's important, and that's the comfortability level is like being able to go to somebody and you know, bounce ideas off of them. And then further than that, even the other facet to that is that person needs to have a correct reaction. They need to be able to go, "Oh yeah, like let's talk about that, like bounce it off me." Instead of go, "Yeah, I don't," or give you some flippant answer. You know, it's like the K when you get text back. Like, "K." It's not that is them saying, "Sure, but I don't really care."
Yeah, I'm not going to
I'm not interested. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there's a level of trust too. Like it took a while to develop trust. Actually, it didn't really take that long to develop trust with you because I realized what kind of person you are and the ability, like how easy it was to talk to you. Because I would give you something and you would give me something back. Like, okay, well, that's what happened when I was going through that at your age. And you would give me a sort of level of vulnerability that nobody else really wanted to bother to give me.
When I was a youngin'.
Mm-hmm. That's...
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's I attempt not to sound like a pompous jackwad when I say stuff like this, but don't just like you just jim the camera.
Oh yeah, I jimmed the camera.
That's happened to me most of my life. Is like people trust me right away, and I think it's because of my willingness to be vulnerable around people. Like I'm not one of those guys that walks around and they like hold everything really close because they're afraid of whatever. Like, and the way that I explain it is a lot of people, when they start a relationship, they build it from scratch. They'll say, "Well, I don't know you, so I give you 0% of my trust." And then you build it up until we get to 100%. And then you're like a trusted person. I give you all of it. I immediately trust you. I immediately trust you until you prove me wrong.
I was going to say.
Here's the problem. When you prove me wrong, I snap back way faster than anybody else.
I was going to say, if you give them 100, you're going to be way more willing to take it back to 25.
Exactly, because I gave it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the problem is I have had friends where I give them 100 and we develop a friendship off of my trust, and then they break it, and then it takes way longer the second time for me to trust you. Matter of fact, and this isn't a flex at all. I'm not saying like this is the way you should be. Just the way that my brain works is I have only had one friend come back from that. One. Where he broke my trust. And the only reason that he came back was because he kept poking. Like, "Hey, man, I know I messed up, but I'm not going anywhere. Like, this friendship means something to me." And it took several years. And we're still friends to this day. So, like, wildness. And that's also another conversation for maybe a later episode is my parents taught me that. That's the way my parents are. You wrong them, they're gone. They just dissolve relationships. Mm-hmm. My mom didn't talk to her brother, her younger brother, for like 20 years. And until my parents divorced, my mom just rekindled with my uncle. But like, and it was over like $800 or something. My dad worked for my uncle and like approached him about the money. They got in some sort of argument. I'm sure, knowing who my dad is, he said some stuff and was disrespectful to his boss, which was, you know, his brother-in-law, and it dissolved from there. And it was probably not fair on either end, but their solution, instead of working through problems is, well, I guess that's it. We had a bump in the road. I guess it's time to move on.
I have a same situation like that. It wasn't over money, and it was a friend who was my age. And there was a situation, there was a woman involved. Some information was exchanged, and I specifically told him, do not leak this information. I'm trusting you with it. And he even gave me a little bit of information from his end that, like, a level of vulnerability. So there was a level of trust. And I turned around, I'm getting phone calls. This information has been leaked. And I have been pretty mad in my life, but I've never been so mad. And if I didn't live 3 hours away from said person at the time, probably would have driven over to his house and started something. Lo and behold, though, I didn't, and I still haven't spoken to that person in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I cut that entire friend group out from my life because you broke my trust. And on top of that, he never said he was sorry. He never owned up to it. He just played the victim card. So I was like, I'm pretty done with that.
Accountability is huge. I think that's a little off of what I was saying. That's breaking trust. But what I'm saying is that my parents have a habit of, like, as soon as there's a bump in the road that's solvable. Like, for instance, growing up, my next door neighbor, his name was Don. Loved the guy. When I was 3, I was a hellion, so I used to break out of the house. My dad used to have to push the washer against the door because I could jimmy the door, get out, and I would run across to the neighbor's house and knock on the door, and my parents would wake up to me being gone, go over to the neighbor's house, and I'm sitting at the counter eating cereal with Don and Edie, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, having...
Yep.
So, and unfortunately they're both gone now, but Don, really, really nice guy. He bought this truck, kind of like what's behind us. It was like a Ford or a Chevy, I don't know, I was 6 or something. And I was learning about cars, and I was pretty proud of the stuff that I knew, and for a 6-year-old, I was probably pretty knowledgeable. Well, he bought this new truck, and we're in his shop, and Dad kind of pointed out, he was like, oh, it's kind of got some rust over here, like, that's kind of terrible. And so I was like, oh, that's what we're doing. So I went around the whole truck, and I started picking it apart and showing all the stuff that was wrong with it. Not knowing, being 6, that that's not what you do to somebody with their new purchase. But I thought I was being helpful, or at least from what I can remember, I thought I was just like, oh, look, this is another thing. Like, look, I found a dent over here. Like, I was being helpful. And Don yelled a lot at me, very upset. And he, as he should have, been like, hey, don't be a little jerk. Well, I think in my dad's eyes it was over the top. This was our neighbor, and at the time, my dad's best friend. Never spoke to him again. The man died. My dad didn't even go to his funeral. That's what I'm talking about. The man yelled at me one time, and my dad severed the relationship forever.
Wow. Do you think he did that for himself or for you?
I think that my dad, love my dad to death. I think my dad has only a couple of tools in his toolbox. And I think that one of them is going away. The other one is you get hurt. So, which one do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he chose
not to hurt.
Well, yeah, what's he going to do? Beat up his neighbor and go to jail?
I don't know. It's your dad. He might.
Yeah, so that's my point, is like, the way that I'm talking about it is like, you severed that relationship with that person breaking your trust for absolute viable reasons.
Okay.
My dad does it, and I would say my parents even do that. And again, this is only my perspective, but they do it for pretty toxic reasons. Toxic is kind of a crazy word, but they do it for unjustifiable reasons, in my opinion. And it's because the uncomfortableness of furthering the relationship or fixing what's wrong is harder than just disappearing for a while or forever.
The uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Okay. Why'd you choose that word? Because it's not like your dad's non-confrontational, right?
Yeah, but so here's the thing. You ever heard that anger is a secondary emotion? You ever heard that?
No.
I have a lot in my life. So basically, if you think anger is a secondary emotion, every single time you've been angry, what was the primary emotion that made you angry? Most of the time it's hurt. Somebody hurt me. Somebody distrusted me. Somebody
being angry is a reaction, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part that I think my dad can't deal with. That's why he jumps to anger. Because he doesn't have the middle part. He does like I went to counseling as a kid, right? And all counseling does is teach you like to look at yourself in the mirror and go, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And what should I do about it? Like to be like to correctly whatever the word would be, like correctly rectify the situation. Like what should I do?
Gives you tools.
Gives you tools because it teaches you how to self-regulate your emotions. Most people don't go to counseling because the counselor is going to fix them. Because you can't fix a person. You can't fix what's going on in your head. All you can do is give you the tools to deal with it yourself, right? It teaches you to be self-aware and be able to regulate your own emotions. So, I don't think that ever happened with either of my parents. I think my mom's a little bit better at it than my dad, but I think my dad just, and that's the man conversation. It's like, it's also kind of crazy for a guy from the boomer generation like my dad to just go into a counselor and be like, I'm feeling sad today. Like, what do I do? You shut up and go back to work. That's what you do. Because you have 8 kids and you have 3 jobs and you don't have time to care about that part of it. Like one of the guys that works for me, 77 years old, I kind of told him that we were doing a podcast and we were going to dive into men's mental health and kind of explore that topic. And he was like, my generation, men's mental health didn't exist. That's what he said.
Mm-hmm. Now look where we are.
And when he laughed. He's like, that didn't exist when I was a kid. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. You know what's cool is that 15% of your generation killed themselves, dude. Or whatever word we can say.
Yeah, or beat their kids into some sort of...
Or beat their wife.
Yeah.
Or did crazy stuff, man.
And produced people like you. That sounds offensive. I don't mean it like that.
Thanks, man.
But produced people like you who had to fight your way to get the tools back into your toolbox. So you spent however many years in counseling, regaining consciousness, if you will, in order to deal with it, to be a solid family man and to raise your kids and to provide for your wife, X, Y, Z. There's 2 parts of it. As I said earlier, it's not just the money. You got to be a dad. You got to be a man in society too. And it's 2 very different things.
Yeah, so that's the core of that conversation is I believe that men are not given certain tools emotionally. I don't think that we're given them because anytime a man asks and says, hey, what about this, man? Like, I feel kind of sad. Like, I don't know. For instance, like, did you know, and this is, my intention is not to be, like, anti-feminist or anything like that, but did you know that in the 60s and 70s, that in the women's bathroom there was, like, sitting chairs? There was, like, a couch for them to, like, take a rest.
Mm-mm. Didn't know that.
Did you know what the men's bathroom looked like?
Probably look like shit.
They look like, well, for starters, when I worked at the machine shop, the bathroom stalls didn't have doors, dude. Like, they installed the doors while I worked there. This is 15 years ago. The building was built in 1918. So for 75 years or whatever, dude, the bathroom stalls didn't have doors. You just were like, hey, let's poop with friends, man.
Okay, well, so what's your point?
My point is that as far as mental health and as far as women and men are considered, I wouldn't ever say that it's easier for women in society, but I'm saying when somebody walks up and they're like, oh, I'm feeling a little, I need a mental health day. It's far more likely for your boss to go, oh, okay, if you're a girl. And it's far more likely for your boss to think you're getting a free day off if it's a dude.
Oh, facts. Because I remember when I was, going to do some counseling and I had to take a portion out of my work week to do that. And I went up to my boss. I'm like, I'm going to be gone from set time to set time. And he goes, why? And I was like, well, I got some stuff I got to deal with, and I didn't really have a choice other than to tell him I'm going to go to counseling. And he was like, oh, okay. You know, it's weird. It's off-putting because guys don't do that for so long. You shove your shit down and you forget about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible. So we can dive into that. And I would like to actually come up with some real statistics when we have those conversations, because I think in today's day and age, there's so much misinformation running around. And actually, the dude that came over and bought that forklift from us, when we had that conversation, he put it in a really cool way. He said that if misinformation is thrown out there and it fits somebody's ideology or it fits their narrative, they grab a hold of it. And then they send it to their friends, and they send it to their friends. And then he used the term, he said, by the time you catch it and everybody realizes that it's misinformation or it's a lie or it's satire, the fingers are already out there, and they've gotten a hold. Was that Bebo?
Yeah.
The fingers are already out there, and they've gotten a hold of everybody, and everybody already believes it because it fits their narrative. And so
by the time you're like, hey, that was wrong, and everyone is like, well, we already accepted it, so it's too late.
Yeah, so check this out. Mm-hmm. This happened to me. So when it was the Trump election, 2016, I started diving into conservatism a little bit and kind of seeing what that was like. And I saw this thing, and everybody was talking about, you know, Hillary Clinton and the Clintons doing all this crazy stuff and whatever, right?
The emails and the
whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then somebody posted up this thing on Facebook, and I was new to this, so I was like, oh, holy crap. It was like she beat 6 children in some country, and there was a video on the dark web and this and that, right? So there was this whole post about it. And I was like, oh, share, dude. Check this out, guys. Like, this is crazy. At the very bottom, at the very bottom, dude.
Mm-hmm. What did it say?
It said, by the way, this is a lie, and if you share it, you're a moron. And so my brother-in-law, of all people, he goes, bud, like, dude, seriously? He goes, get the heck out of here. He goes, you're making everyone look bad that is trying to put out information that makes sense, right? And not just like left-leaning or right-leaning stuff. We're talking like if you're trying to, you know, put your ideology out there to share, you can't do it based on somebody going, hey, some idiot is going to share this stuff, and you're a moron for doing it, right? So I was guilty of that, which is terrible because I'm a fairly intelligent guy, and I usually don't do stuff like that. Yeah, nice. Real nice. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at for that. But I did want to kind of poke on. We're at like a half an hour now, but I wanted to poke on this because I think this will give us a fair amount of a conversation, and I would actually like to dive into it later. But I want to touch on this: is the "you can have it all" mentality. Because I saw a quote the other day, and I talked to Jody about it, and she completely agreed with me. So the quote went like something like this. It was like, if you grew up in a household where everything was chaotic and you were unsure all the time, and there might have been some violence or whatever, you're not looking to have everything. You're not looking to build a castle, and you're not looking to have servants. You're looking for peace and quiet. You're looking for a place that you don't have to run away from or have a vacation from, and you're looking to build a life where you have peace. And like me and Jody talked about this at length, and genuinely, that's where I'm at. We built our house to have peace. Mm-hmm. I do what I want. I have people over that I want here. And if my peace is just disrupted, people or things disappear pretty quickly because I protect my peace and I protect my wife's peace a lot. It's important to me that we do that.
You didn't go after materials and things, like you got stuff, cars, whatever, but you're not chasing that big house on the hill or whatever. You have a basis of happiness that you found with your relationship with your wife and whatever, and the stuff that you've built that you can't build with your hands. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't even realize that that is another thing that can give you happiness instead of trying to chase, whatever.
Yeah. I'm looking it up right now because I think it's a lot after winning the lotto.
Oh yeah.
So what my point is that there's a lot of people that after they get it all, right? So yeah, right here it says about 70% of people who suddenly receive a windfall of cash will lose it within a few years. So basically, people. I guess I should elaborate. So it's not just money. It. What do you work for day to day? What are your goals? What are you looking forward to? If all of a sudden all the things that you had in your goals, all the things that you were looking for, you had.
Well, are you asking me or making a statement?
I'm making a statement.
Mm-hmm.
What would your life look like then? You would. There's no purpose. One of the things I told my oldest kid is when she was young and she was like kind of doing like band and a little bit of like extracurricular stuff at school, but like still kind of struggling and like being in a room a lot and like not really active. I was like, get a job. And she's like, I don't have a job. That sucks. And I'm like, yeah, but here's the thing. A job gives you purpose. It gives you a reason to wake up in the morning. It gives you your own money so you feel free or like a little bit, less of, right?
It's in our DNA that humans need a purpose.
Right. So that's what I told her. I'm like, get a job because it gives you purpose. And so this is the point, is if you have the ability to have everything you've ever wanted, you lose your purpose because your purpose is to grind, is to do stuff. But there's a dichotomy to that because you don't want to grind too far. You don't want to grind yourself into, what you and I talk about, a certain person all the time. And you don't want to be 60 years old and be divorced 6 times and your kids hate you, but you got all this money. I mean, you got all this money, cool, dude. But you got nobody to share it with and nobody loves you anymore. So, like, there's a grind, but there's to a point. And that's where I'm at. So I'm not a millionaire. I don't even own my own house. But I'm happy because I live where I want to live. I've got really good friends. I get to build cars with my friends. We get to do cool stuff and like go on trips to Montana and do stuff like that. But I still have a grind. We bust our butts in the shop, like more so than a lot of people I know. We're out here
most days after work, and Saturday and usually Sunday.
Most days after work, and except for the last couple of weeks because we've been playing horse game,
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, we've been playing Red Dead Redemption too. But anyway, that's my point. Is the grind still has to exist because once you take it away, you either find a bigger grind or you lose your purpose and you start to get depressed and whatever. Right?
Oh, someone I loved very much was depressed, and I used to tell her like, "You got to do something. You have got to do something." She didn't want to hear it.
No, and a lot of people. It's like perspectives, right? A lot of people aren't going to listen because they don't get it. A lot of people aren't going to be able to identify with your words because, so it's like my perfect analogy that I use every single time we talk about this. Tell me what it's like to go skydiving. No, tell me. Like, tell me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. And even if you did know, you'd be like, oh, you're falling really fast and it's really windy and like,
yeah, you don't know what it's like until you go skydiving.
And you can't use words. You can't use words to describe it. You have to experience it.
That's like you trying to explain to me what it's like to love your wife.
Right.
You can't do that.
No, not
because the words won't. It doesn't work unless I'm in your shoes. It doesn't work.
The point is that when you're trying to explain something to somebody in your words, they're hearing your words and they're interpreting what you're trying to say, but they're not experiencing it. They don't experience it. So that's the point. And that's one of the things that I think is so hard about addiction is when you, which we'll dive into at some point, but when you try to explain to somebody like, hey, man, you're ruining your life and you're doing all this crazy stuff. Like you're losing loved ones and your friends are dying and all this crazy stuff. They're not experiencing what you're seeing from a healthy person's point of view. They're only experiencing the survival mode and like, all that stuff from their point of view. And so I think there's kind of a disconnect when good Lord, I got to stop doing that.
You talk with your hands a lot.
I know I'm doing this, but the point is that I think that perspectives are huge because I shouldn't say because. I want to tell you this. I had an ex-manager of mine. Nice guy. Bebo, can you stop, please? Thanks. An ex-manager of mine told me, he told me two things. The first doesn't really apply to the situation, but I want to tell you because it's dumb. I said, why do you piss me off all the time? He used to do stuff just to piss me off. And he goes, because you work so hard when you're pissed off. He used to piss me off on purpose because I worked hard.
That's kind of messed up.
A little bit.
That's a little messed up.
But the one thing that stuck with me forever was he would talk about perceptions a lot. He talked about perception a lot. And he said, perception is reality.
You've said that a lot, actually.
So your perception is your reality because you can't describe to somebody else what you see. I mean, you can in words, but you don't experience it, right? So your perception is your reality. What you see and I see day to day, we can experience the exact same thing at the exact same moment. I've got 60 pounds on you. I've got 20 years on you. I've got 3 or 4 inches in height on you. Physically, we experience things differently already, right?
Yeah, you're old and broken. We all know.
I'm old and cool. But the point is like physically, emotionally, experience-wise, we experience things differently. Like when we send funny memes and reels back and forth, right?
Oh, it's funny to you for a reason, but it's going to be funny to me for a different reason.
Even further than that, you and I quote different parts of the meme.
Oh, facts.
We quote different things.
Yeah, this stood out to me, and you're like, well, that's not even why I said, like, okay,
yeah, that's
sure.
not even, yeah.
You probably didn't even notice that part.
When we're vocal stimming back and forth, I'm saying a different part of it than you are.
Oh, yeah.
That's because we experience it differently.
Vocal stimming.
It's a thing. It's an ADHD thing.
I know. But saying vocal stimming to me is like when someone says trauma.
Really?
Or like even...
You do a vocal stim all the time.
Well, sure, that's what it's called.
That's why you walk around going, horror game.
Horror game. Don't say that. That's not mine.
Me, I never said that.
I don't say that. What's one of mine?
I don't know. You do a million of them. You do a million of them. And it's hard to actually, whatever, but I don't know. You do bowels. You do that one. You do that one a lot. And you do, what was the guy,
Okay.
Yeah. And the dude in the pink suit,
Oh.
That boss, that one.
Hey, boss.
Yeah, that one.
Give me the pussy.
That's right. So you do those ones, but
digressing.
The point is that I forgot what I was trying to say because you made me go through a list of your vocal stems.
Where even are we
right now? We're just talking, man. We're just talking.
Okay, I want to go back.
Where do you want to go?
Because you said words and their meaning. And you said, because I'm trying to remember what you had said, but you say, like, when you say something to me, it's going to mean something slightly different to me. But to avoid that, you use very specific words, and that's why your vocabulary is so wide, your range, and people are always making fun of you, like, why are you trying to sound smart? And you're like, I'm not. I'm trying to be as specific as I can to try to convey how I feel, right?
Agreed. I wouldn't say always. People have in the past been like, why do you always use big words? Like, are you trying to sound smart? No, dude, because there is a specific word for the situation that applies to what I'm trying to talk about. And so it's like when you're giving directions. If you're like, oh, it's on Main Street. Oh, okay. But there's a different word that gets you to the exact address, right? There's 15 different words you could have used, but I want to use this one for a specific reason. And I find that intimidates people a lot. I'm not a genius, dude. I'm just not. But I like to use words that correctly convey what I'm trying to say. So yeah, absolutely. It's a thing. But you can wear words out. And you
literally.
You can't. Literally.
That's one.
Because 99% of the time when people say literally, they mean it figuratively.
Yeah.
They don't mean it literally.
I'm literally dying. You're not, actually.
Yeah, you're not. But so you can ruin words by overusing them or by using them for the incorrect meaning. And it is dangerous to a point, I think, with the way that we communicate with each other. Because, like, if you took 1950s people and you brought them to 2026, 90% of them would be like, they're speaking English, but I don't really get it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Specifically, specifically because of words or like how we say it.
Words and slang and what words are used for.
Yeah.
So like I still try to keep up with the slang of kids, right? So like, you know, my daughter, she's 22, and she's like, you know, fam and bay and fire and all the dumb stuff, dude.
Finna.
Why
Finna.
can't we just say I'm going to instead of saying I'm finna? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why. And you know what's funny is that's the part that ages me, is that my parents were always like, why do you guys say gay all the time? Or why do you guys say, you know, smack? Me and my sister used to say smack. My mom's like, in my day, that meant heroin. You know, I'm like, we're not talking about heroin. We're 9, right? So, but that's kind of the generational gap.
Well, the sad part about it is when we hear a new slang term, half of the time we're like, oh, that's ridiculous. We're never going to end up saying that. And then the more we make fun of it, then we just end up saying it.
Well, so nothing was as bad as when, you know, our
Dope.
fisherman buddy, dope. Nothing was as bad because he started saying it facetiously. He started saying it to make fun of the people that say dope, and now he just says dope all the time because he's dumb. And oh golly, that's fun. But anyway, yeah, that's funny.
Yep.
So words.
There's a lot of topics here.
Words can. Oh my gosh, why does this thing do that? When it's plugged in, it shouldn't be.
Because you don't know what you're doing.
My God.
See how mine doesn't do that?
What about falling in love with suffering?
Suffering.
As an excuse.
I feel called out. Maybe not. Maybe that's not what you mean.
No. Falling in love with suffering, meaning like I think that there is a certain mentality of people that exist out there that, boy, they wish that they weren't suffering, but they also use that as an excuse to be crappy people, right? So like your dad beat the crap out of you when you were 9 years old, and he did it up until the point you were 16, and then you have a child and you beat the crap out of your kid. You're like, well, my dad did it to me. It doesn't give you an excuse. It doesn't give you a free pass to pass on that BS. You can choose to be the solution, or you can continue the problem. That's what I'm talking about, is falling in love with suffering based on the fact that it's easier to have an excuse than it is to own up to it. And actually, we could tack onto that with accountability, because accountability is at an all-time low right now in society. At an all-time low. Most people, they don't like to take accountability because it sucks a lot. You know what I've found in my life? Is that the faster you take accountability and the more aggressive you are with taking that accountability, the more people want to leave you alone. When I was driving dump truck one time, I was delivering rock to this lady, and she came from the west side, so she was a little, and so she asked me to spread it through this driveway that went like this, like S turns, right? And I did it. I went forward, and then I went back. She asked me to do it one more time. And in order to get the rock closer to the mow curbs, I swung. And I hit a mow curb, and I took out like 10 feet of it. Well, mow curbs are poured in one shot. So you break one, you break them all. And she called my boss and was like, hey, this guy ran over my curbs with the dump truck. And Gary called me, and he goes, did you do this? And I go, yep. And he goes, that's it? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, this is going to cost us $7,000. And I said, okay. It's like, write me up or whatever. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I did it. Yeah. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
No excuses. Like, it happened, dude.
You're not going to sit there and ramble off about, oh, she said this and blah, blah, whatever. It's just like, yep, this happened. I did it.
You can take and build a list of all the things you've done right, and everybody's just going to remember the one thing you did wrong. So why not just own it and be like, yeah, sure. It's cool. That's why I love that show, Ted Lasso. And we should really watch that today, because he does such a good job of like ultimate accountability and ultimate ownership. Shout out Jocko. But like, like ultimate ownership. Own it, man. Because the more you own it, I feel like people get a little terrified of people that are willing to accept extreme responsibility for stuff. it also puts you in a different category of human beings. So like most of the people that accept extreme responsibility are, people that are in charge of a lot of people, and like your really good bosses are like that. Whereas there's another type of boss that's a piece of junk that basically gets their job because they kiss everybody's butt and they, tell the upwards what they want to hear. And that's more of a corporate ideology. I'm talking about like mom and pop people that are legit and they have people that come in and work for 30 years, that kind of people. So, but I mean, yeah, ownership, man. And like I said, I think accountability is an all-time low in our society because everybody has an excuse. That is okay. So that's why I hate trauma. That's why I hate the word trauma, because every jackwad and their brother has a reason to be a jackass.
Oh, sorry, that's my trauma response.
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry that I slapped your kid. That's my trauma response because somebody hit me once. No, that's how you get hurt, right? So like, oh, I'm sorry that I crashed my car because my trauma response is to hit the brakes and slide through the ice and crash into a ditch. Like, I'm sorry that there's a million. You could come up with an excuse for anything. Here's the easiest part is that if you don't have an excuse, if you don't develop an excuse, your life gets better, man. You should ground your life in gratitude and personal responsibility. If you do that, you're way better off than those other people that are like, oh, it's, systemic racism, or it's, I was born this, or I have ADHD, or I have whatever. There's an excuse for everything. I could have a million excuses. You know what I mean? A million. I'm ADHD. I have flat feet. I have gout. So I can't walk from here to the frickin' end of the driveway. Like, literally, I could come up with a million excuses. Seriously. So it's like, but why? What a waste of time. What a waste of time. Because accountability is everything, man. It changes your psyche, too. So it's kind of crazy. But I think that our society has fallen in love with labels, because as soon as you have a label, as soon as you have a reason to be the way you are, you
can just hold on to it.
Oh yeah,
you can hold it right here, like it's a sword or a shield.
It is your sword where you go into public and you go, but I'm this, and I can just do stuff because, oh my God, and it's like, okay, well, I'm this. You're like, my dad's this. My wife is this.
Yeah, don't make your quote label your personality. Don't use it as an excuse.
You can choose.
And that's not to say that some people's labels or, if you will, disabilities don't actually limit them, because there are people like that
100%.
For sure. But you don't see those people waving that around because they're normally trying to hide it. They're trying to just fit in. From my perspective,
no, it's
you get to know somebody.
Everybody wants a group. It's just like high school. Everybody wants to fit into a clique. Everybody wants to be a part of a group. And I think that if you give yourself a label, it's a lot easier to fit into a group. It's easier that way.
We're wired as humans to fit in.
Yeah.
And that's been taken advantage of because everyone wants to fit in with a group. They want to hold on to a label.
Here's the thing. I can give you a perfect example. Car guys. You ever met the car guy that doesn't actually know anything?
Oh, yeah. But stage 1, stage 2,
he can walk into a conversation and go, oh, yeah, I'm a car guy. And everybody's like, oh, cool, man, you're a car guy. And then he starts talking like a moron. He's like, oh, my twin-turbo, double supercharged Nissan Xterra. Huh? And he's like, yeah, I can't pop the hood right now because the belt's squeaking, but, it's there. Oh, I'm sure it is, buddy. Mm-hmm. But they just want to belong, man. Like, they just want to be cool guys. And, you shouldn't lie to do it, but, like, whatever. It doesn't bother me. You can talk to a guy for 11 and a half seconds if you know anything about cars, and you can tell if they know about cars or not. Like what was the one conversation I had? My 14-to-1 camshaft.
14 to 7-1.
Yeah, 14-to-1 camshaft.
Yeah.
14-to-1 camshaft, man. So, but yeah, it's. I don't think that it is a good thing for society to push labels. I don't. I think it causes chaos, and I think it causes excuses, and we don't even need more of those, man. We need less. A lot less of those.
Labels are a crutch.
Yep.
Just like, I don't know why this popped in my head, but just like all those new driver car ability things, parking sensors and self-parking, this and that and stuff. Those are all crutches. You're not learning how to park. You're not learning how to be a functional human in society. You're holding on to this, like, I got ADHD or, whatever it is. Whatever. Well, it doesn't matter.
Same thing with semi-driving. They're putting all the automatics in these trucks, right? Like, we're both truck drivers, or I was once, and we're both CDL holders. And they put an automatic in this truck, right? It takes away all of the finesse and all of your rhythm.
Oh, yeah.
And trucking is finesse and rhythm. That's what it is. So if you don't learn that part of trucking, you're driving a big-ass car. And you just put your foot to the throttle, and then you end up doing a U-turn in the middle of the highway and taking out a family. Because you haven't been taught the bare bones of what driving is. Finesse and rhythm is what it's all about. Well, and of course safety. We have to say safety, but it's terrible. And you meet these guys that learned on an automatic, and they took their test in an automatic. And I had one that worked for me, and I tried to teach him and watch him, and he just had no rhythm, none, because he didn't learn it. He didn't do all the hard parts. I still don't think that they should allow you to take your test in an automatic. I don't believe that an automatic
you for the rest of your career, unless you force yourself to learn how to drive not an automatic.
Well, I don't think you should be able to take your CDL test without learning how to drive, being able to pass the test with a manual. I don't think you should be able to do that because it takes away so much of the skill. An automatic-only endorsement shouldn't exist. It shouldn't exist. So for all my truckers out there, that's genuinely the way I feel. And I feel like 99% of truckers feel the same way. That if you cannot drive a manual, you shouldn't be in a truck. Mm-hmm. You absolutely shouldn't.
Automatics to me are for that guy who's been in the industry for 42 years and he's tired, but he needs a job.
My dad drove the same truck with an 18-speed in it and double belly dumps for 18 years. And he would have taken an automatic at the end because his shoulders wore out. He literally wore out his elbow and his shoulder, and the top of his hand right here has no meat left from sitting it on the shifter. So, of course, he would have taken an automatic, just put the pedal down and go. Hell yeah. But he's been driving the exact same truck on the exact same route for 18 years. I think he'll be fine. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the application. So, but I still believe that an automatic endorsement shouldn't exist. You should be able to drive or not. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we kind of went off the deep end.
Yeah,
but,
as we do.
So what do we got here? Let's see what we're in. That's 53 minutes of recording. We could do it. Let's close this one off and take a little bit of a break.
Yeah, because if we get into something else, we're gonna get into something else. So
well, that was our pilot episode. That was just us kind of riffing about conversations to give you an idea of what we're about and who we are, what we think, kind of how we talk. We're gonna come back soon.
Yeah, we're gonna
put another episode in.
So if you care, or if you don't,
if you care,
we're gonna do it either way.
For all of our friends and family that have been asking us when we were gonna put this on the interwebs, here you go. Here's our pilot episode. Rock and roll. We'll see you next time.
Yep.